introduce yourself, your full name, your party, what you're running for, and where you're from, that'd be great.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Giselle. My name is David Seligman. I'm a workers' rights, civil rights, and consumer protection lawyer, executive director of a legal nonprofit called Towards Justice, and I'm a Democrat running for Attorney General in Colorado.
Beautiful. All right, David, let's start off with the basic.
Yeah.
What is an Attorney General and
Yeah.
what do they do?
It's a really important question. I can't overstate how essential this office is, especially right now. The Attorney General is the lawyer for the people of Colorado, the lawyer who can be there in their corner fighting back against the absurd cruelty and corruption that we're seeing from the Trump administration, but, and taking on ICE and, a cruel immigration enforcement apparatus, holding accountable the corporations that are polluting our planet and our communities and crushing our unions and ripping us off, right? The lawyer who's there to make sure that Coloradans are protected, right? And I'm running for Attorney General to be a lawyer for the people of Colorado, right? To be the lawyer in your corner when you take on your landlord, right? Or your corporate boss, right? Not that the AG's office can fight for every person in each one of those cases, but it is fundamentally, I think, essential right now that we elect someone into that office who has dedicated their career to fighting for people, taking on the Goliaths in their lives.
Beautiful. All right. What are your goals if you get elected Attorney General? What are kind of the ideas that you have?
Yeah, so there's just so much this office can do. So a couple of things that I want to highlight right off the jump, but there's more to say, right? Because there's so many of the forces in our lives that are making us less safe, less free, less prosperous. So many of the things that make it hard to find in a Colorado where people can to build a Colorado where people can actually afford to thrive here, right? So many of those things have to do with the forces of wealth and power trampling our rights, and getting away with it. And so that's why I'm running for Attorney General. So, but a few things, that I want to highlight. One is I am really deeply concerned, very deeply concerned right now, by the absurd and dangerous paramilitary immigration enforcement apparatus that is devastating communities across Colorado. Right, we've got hundreds and hundreds locked up in the Immigration Detention Center in Aurora, stripped away from their families because they look Latino, because they speak Spanish, because they work a low-wage job. We just won in the United States Supreme Court a case I've been litigating for more than a decade on behalf of thousands locked up in that detention center, taking on the GEO Group, the private prison company that owns it. But it's not just about the people in detention. It's about so many others who are terrified to call 911, terrified to report their boss for wage theft, terrified to participate in our democracy because we have seen the sort of pervasive weaponization of immigration enforcement in order to punish communities, in order to cause fear. And so as Attorney General, one of my top priorities will be to create an ICE accountability unit. That unit will be in place to hold ICE officers accountable when they trample our rights, to hold accountable the contractors, whether it's the private prison companies or also the surveillance big tech contractors like Palantir that are spying on us and building out the largest mass surveillance system in the history of the world, and also taking on those in Colorado, like our local law enforcement or corporate bosses or others that want to do the bidding of ICE, right, and collaborate with this administration, or in many cases take advantage of the pervasive fear across our society in order to bully people, in order to harass them, in order to undermine them, in order to victimize them. The folks brutalized by this scheme right now need a lawyer in their corner, and I'm running for Attorney General to be that lawyer. Second, we are dealing with an absurd affordability crisis. It is freaking outrageous, right? That people graduating from MSU are going to have such a difficult time finding work that's going to pay them their fair share of the profits that they're generating for corporations, finding opportunities to really meaningfully thrive in Colorado. We have almost 1 million Coloradans drowning in medical debt in one of the wealthiest states in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. We've got people going bankrupt because they got sick. It is totally absurd. So a core project of the Attorney General's office has to be taken on all the ways in which we're getting ripped off, right? Where our unions getting crushed, going after the health insurance companies that are denying our claims and jacking up our premiums, going after the hospitals that are billing us for services that we don't owe, taking on the monopolies that right now are spying on us in order to jack up our prices and drive down our wages, and using algorithms online to do it. And the AI companies that know more about my kids' brains than I know about their brains, right? And that are rigging an economy that's going to create that is already creating trillionaires that are creating robots that are going to that are going to taking advantage of our kids and causing people to lose their jobs, and that are going to decide whether my mom gets her health care. It's totally absurd. And then the third thing is we cannot lose track of the absolutely existential threat of climate change and corporate pollution. And it is crazy right now that we live in a society where Suncor in North Denver and Commerce City has been polluting the planet for years and years and years, causing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids to get sick, right? There's an 8-year lower life expectancy in the zip codes around Suncor. And this is 8 years off their parents' lives that have been stolen from the kids that live in those neighborhoods. It's totally absurd, and we don't need to be living that way. Suncor made $2 billion in profits in a single quarter in 2026, and the Polis administration fined Suncor $2 million. So a $2 million fine off $2 billion in profits is the equivalent of a $20 parking ticket. If we got a parking ticket downstairs, MSU security would give us a ticket for more than $20, right? That's what I mean when I say that there are two sets of laws in this country, one for the wealthy and powerful and one for the rest of us, and it does not need to be that way. So also on day one, I would create an environmental justice and protection unit going on offense to meaningfully hold corporate polluters accountable when they violate our rights, independent of the governor and the governor's agencies.
Beautiful. All right, I would like to touch back a little bit on what you said about the ICE patrols and how would that work out.
Yeah.
Do you hire people, like a normal hiring process? Would they be volunteers? Would it be used by taxpayer dollars? How would that work out?
Well, the office already has the office has more than 700 people, more than 400 lawyers, right? I want to make sure that we direct those resources toward protecting the people who are most in need of protection, especially right now. And I see our immigrant communities as being particularly vulnerable. And so I want to make sure that we use the resources in the office already. And yes, I'll do anything I can to expand funding for the office in order to support more folks coming in and supporting the Department of Law in protecting people. It's also really important, though, and this is something that I see throughout my work. As I'm a workers' rights lawyer, I run a legal nonprofit called Towards Justice. I have spent more than a decade fighting in court on behalf of working people, many immigrants who are really fearful of government, who have been really fearful of government, and are now especially fearful of government. The AG's office needs to do even more to reassure people, right, that we are going to be their lawyer, that we are there to protect them, whether or not they've got documents, right, whatever their status may be. We are there to protect them. It is not our responsibility to enforce civil immigration law. In fact, it is unlawful for the AG's office to enforce civil immigration law. We are not allowed to collaborate in those efforts, and we will hold accountable any law enforcement across Colorado that does collaborate with ICE or immigration enforcement. We need to do even more to build out deeper trust in community, and that's something that I'm eager to do as part of this ICE accountability work.
What would you tell to immigrant families and immigrant people all throughout Colorado and different ages that are scared to come out of their homes, that are scared to take their kids to school because ICE might get them? What would you tell them?
I mean, it's so sad. It is so horrible. A client of mine told us several months ago that her boss told her that the next time she asks for her paycheck, she'll get a bullet in the head and a call to ICE. We've got clients locked up in GEO who've been taken away from their kids. They've never committed a crime. They haven't done anything wrong. They've tried to do everything right, follow all the rules. And they're locked up in a private prison camp for an out-of-state billion-dollar corporation, and stripped away from their families. I think about this all the time. I've been thinking about it a lot recently. My father recently died, and every day I had with my father was special and important to me. There are families that have been separated right here in Colorado because they look Latino, because they speak Spanish, because they work a low-wage job. And the Supreme Court of the United States has told them that they can do it. It is totally absurd. So what I want to tell people across Colorado is, I get it. I mean, I get how scared you are. I hear it, right? Even if I haven't ever experienced that kind of fear, I appreciate how much fear there is right now in community. And it's one of the core reasons that I'm running for Attorney General. We need to do even more to make sure that people across Colorado understand that we are there to fight for them, right? We are there to fight for the most vulnerable people who are the most fearful right now. That is essential. I'll say that's essential to all of our neighbors, right? Immigrant and non-immigrant alike, because living in a world where there is so much fear is dangerous for all of us. All it does is serve the interests of bullies. And I want to be the lawyer in your corner. That's the work that I've been doing my entire career. And I want to do it within the AG's office, the state of Colorado, like on your side, fighting to hold accountable all of those that are terrorizing our communities right now.
All right. David, what's something that people don't know about you?
No.
What's something that, people don't really expect to know about you, or something that people don't really, when you're doing it,
Yeah.
like, oh, I didn't know you did that, or oh, I didn't know you, done
Yeah.
that before.
I'm a better dancer than you think I would be, right? I'm a better dancer than people think I would be always. Not a great dancer, but I'm a better dancer than people think I would be. I grew up here in Denver. I am a long-suffering Colorado Rockies fan. I always tell people that my dream job was to be the public address announcer at Colorado Rockies games. You know, the guy who goes like, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Coors Field." So I might have to wait till my next life, I'm the father of 3 daughters who are 11, 9, and 7, and they are just so unbelievably important to me. My family is so unbelievably important to me. My community is so unbelievably important to me. And as I've been saying over and over on this campaign recently, as I've been reflecting on the state of our politics right now, I want people to know about those things in my life. And the reason I want people to know about those things in my life is that this campaign and this office, it doesn't define me. And the reason it's important for you to know that this office doesn't define me is because I'm okay being a one-term Attorney General, I'm not signing up for this because I want the next step on my Wikipedia page. The most important things in my life have nothing to do with this campaign. I'm doing this because I want to fight for the people of Colorado. I want to tell the truth and I want to fight for them. And if that means that I piss off some in the establishment who they try to take the office away from me, that's fine. Like this is about fighting for the people of Colorado, not about ascending some political ladder.
Gotcha. With one of the biggest concerns of AI are data centers being built, for example, at the Garden of the Gods and the Globeville, Elera, Swansea neighborhood, and our state also being in a drought kind of affects all of that. How do you plan on tackling this with your campaign?
Yeah, well, so I've been loudly arguing for an AI data center moratorium. I think it is absurd that we're building the data centers of soon-to-be trillionaires or currently trillionaires that are going to guzzle 1 million gallons of water a day, in order to build, as I said, the robots that are going to spy on us and jack up our prices, develop like the fake, chatbot boyfriends and girlfriends for, teenagers, right? We've got like a spate of an epidemic of death by suicide among kids, teenagers right now, because we've got chatbots that are proliferating right across the internet, that aren't meaningfully accountable to us, right? That know more about us than we know about ourselves, right? It's a really dire situation. And let me also be clear. What I'm saying here isn't that we're going to shut down AI. We cannot shut down AI. We shouldn't shut down AI, right? AI technologies will allow us to do some remarkable things. I hope in our lifetimes that AI technologies will help us cure cancer, right? But what I also know is that these tools, unrestrained, in service of the profits of trillionaires, when we are seeing the most absurd concentrations of wealth and power we have ever seen in the history of this country, that are very dangerous, right, and are causing real harm to our communities right now. We need to make sure that we have the right regulations in place to hold those systems accountable, we need to make sure we've got the right regulations in place to make sure that our communities, the communities, by the way, whose entire intellectual history now is the basis for AI technology. So when they're making trillions, they're making it off of us, off of human beings, our species, that we reap the benefits as well of the development of this technology. And I think that so we've got to. I support a moratorium at least until we figure those things out. At least until we make sure that these data centers aren't guzzling our water, especially in a period of drought. And then in the AG's office, one of the most important tools that I'm going to have in order to hold big tech accountable, in order to hold the AI trillionaires accountable, will be the laws on the books. The laws on the books that too often are ignored, right? Because in many cases, these forces have accumulated their power and wealth by spying on us in violation of our civil rights and privacy laws, by crushing our unions in violation of our labor laws, by building the data centers that have violated our environmental protection laws, by exploiting their market power in violation of our antitrust laws. We need to breathe life into those laws. And doing so will be absolutely critical to navigating what comes next. We are at a second Gilded Age. We have been here before. We confronted an industrial revolution that spurred tremendous suffering across the world, including in the United States. And you know what we did? We said, you know what? We're going to build something transformational in government, a New Deal. That's the kind of thing we need to do right now. Enforcing the laws on the books is going to be a critical part of that.
The JBS strike in Greeley was done for a call on safer working conditions and higher wages. How will your campaign help workers across Colorado?
Oh, I love this question. The work that I've been doing my entire career. So I'm representing people right now in Greeley taking on JBS for forcing them to work under brutal, absurd, unfair working conditions. We're talking about people walking around in Greeley with disfigured hands because of JBS's brutal line speeds. One of the wealthiest and most powerful meatpacking corporations in the history of the world. My Attorney General's office will be the most active in the country, a leader across the country, in the history of the country, right? A leader in taking on the ways in which the biggest corporations in the world are subjecting us to absurd, unsafe working conditions, to union busting, to wage theft, to discrimination, and more. Part of that project involves enforcing the laws in the books that we have right here in Colorado. This is the work that I've been doing my entire career because we can't wait for the federal government to enforce federal labor laws or federal workplace health and safety laws, and that's why I have built a career on bold, courageous enforcement of state law to address workplace health and safety problems and to address union busting because we can't wait for the feds to do this. We need to protect people right now when the Trump administration is retreating and allowing the wealthiest and most powerful corporations in the world to trample our rights.
Right. Tina Peters has been free for 22 days, and Jared Polis granted her release. What are your thoughts on this?
It's absurd. And I am the only statewide candidate to say explicitly, and I'll say it again here, that I think the legislature should reconvene in special session to investigate the governor and hold him accountable, including impeaching him. Because if the governor, in fact, commuted Tina Peters' sentence at the behest of Donald Trump, he didn't just make the wrong decision, he violated something core in our constitutional structure. Because our Constitution in Colorado says the clemency power belongs to the governor alone. It's for the governor to exercise. That's critical because when I talk about how I'm going to prosecute ICE agents when they violate our rights, I'm talking about how we use state law to hold them accountable. Now, the president can't pardon an ICE officer convicted of a state crime. Governor Polis sent exactly the wrong signal. Governor Polis sent a signal that, you know what, when ICE officers come in and trample our rights, the president can put pressure on us and we'll pardon them, right? Governor Polis sent the signal to the Trump White House that Colorado law can be trampled by them, that Colorado is in fact not sovereign when it comes to the enforcement of its laws. That's dangerous. It flies in the face of our constitutional order, and if that is indeed what happened, the governor should be impeached for it, especially because we've got so many people inside our DOC right now, locked up, who are deserving of clemency, who are deserving of mercy, right? Locked away from their families for decades and decades and decades. We've got hundreds and hundreds who are eligible for parole right now, just sitting there, right? What about them? We've got hundreds and hundreds of kids right now locked up in juvenile prisons, which is absurd that those even exist, right? Juvenile prisons who courts have said should be released, and they're still being held there. It's absurd, and the governor should be held accountable for it.
What would you say to the governor if he was in front of you right now?
I would say I would say several things. Here's what I'd say to the governor. I'd be like, how are you selling out Colorado, man? Like, we put you there to fight for us, right? You're vetoing the Worker Protection Act, which would have made it easier for workers to unionize. You vetoed a bill we passed this year to prevent the biggest corporations on the planet from spying on us to jack up our prices and drive down our wages. You succumbed, it seems, to the pressure of Donald Trump, violated something core in our constitutional order, and in doing so, sold out Coloradans. I would remind him, I'd say, you know what? The work of politics at the end of the day is about making people's lives better. That's why I'm in this gig, That's why I'm taking on this fight. And if you're not in it for those reasons, if you're not in politics to make people's lives better, you have no business being here.
All right. In your campaign, I saw your website, and one of the things that you're very focused on is using the law boldly and courageously to take on Donald Trump and the conditions that gave rise to him to fight for a Colorado where everyone has the rights and resources to thrive. Can you go more into detail about how, kind of like the idea behind this campaign?
Yeah, I think one of the core things that I want to reinforce to people is that so many of the laws in the books that are there to protect the powerless and hold the powerful accountable, the laws against corruption, the laws against corporate abuse, the laws against the exploitation of monopoly power to harm people. So many of those laws are just words on a page, right? Until we enforce them with courage and with boldness. And that's the work that I've been doing my entire career. Standing up in court, using the antitrust laws, the worker protection laws, the civil rights laws, the consumer protection laws, in ways no one had tried before to fight for a better world for people, for individuals, taking on corruption, taking on corporate abuse, going after corporate landlords that bury them in junk fees, going after the bosses that crush their unions and that jack up our prices, going after the billion-dollar hospital systems, burying people in medical debt they don't even owe, going after the Polis administration for trying to turn over Coloradans' personal information to ICE, or the ways in which the Polis administration violated laws here in Colorado prohibiting involuntary servitude and slavery, even for those who have been convicted of a crime. In all of those cases, the laws and the books protected the people who were harmed. Sometimes those people need a lawyer in their corner to fight back for them. That's why I'm running for Attorney General, right? Because all of us should have the benefit of the laws and the books that are there to protect us. We just need to enforce those laws, because all the time those laws are violated.
All right. What makes you stand out from the other Democrats who are also running for Attorney General?
I love this question. I think it's critical right now that we elect a lawyer who has done the work, knows how to use the law with boldness and with courage. It's critical that we elect someone with leadership experience. I'm the only person in this race who not only has run my nonprofit legal organization for many years, but I've helped to turn that organization into a national powerhouse in the fight for civil rights and economic justice. Right? I'm the one in this race who has built something from scratch. Right? That all matters. But what matters, I think, most of all at this moment is I'm the only one in this race who has dedicated my career to representing people in court, individuals, taking on private prison companies, taking on the biggest corporations in the world, taking on government, right? People who are screwed over and scared, who are fighting back on the hardest days of their lives and who are winning. That kind of experience, I think, more than anything, now more than ever, is essential, right? I have not been a prosecutor. I have not worked for corporations. I have never run for elected office. I have dedicated my career to fighting in the trenches for people who are screwed over and scared. And I see how we have a legal system that is rigged against them. I see how much fear there is across our society right now. I see how government has left people behind. I see how what we are doing is failing. And I'm running for Attorney General because I think we need to do something transformative in government right now. We need to unrig the law. And I have a better appreciation than anyone else in this race about how to do it because I'm the one who's seen it.
All right, David, we're going to wrap up the interview. Is there anything else that you would like to say that we haven't touched on?
Just how much I appreciate you doing this work, you know. It's really important. What you're doing is really important. We need to shine a light on how important this office is, but we also just need to share information about what's happening out there in the world. The algorithms that are, have exploited us, right? They're giving us only a tiny sliver of the information that we need in order to fight for a better world for everybody. And so the work you're doing here is really essential, and I'm honored to be here. So hopefully not my first time, hopefully not my last time in this studio. I hope you'll have me back.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. That'll wrap up our interview.
Awesome. Thank you very much.